at the very bottom, I think, of 11a. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 lines from the bottom. So we've introduced this concept that we found by certain cases that you could, we wanted to know without any blemishes, how do the leftover sheep and how does the leftover incense, where does it go? We introduced this concept called Leiv Bezdin Masalim, where Bezdin, the court, they can make a stipulation that in the event that it's going to be left over, so it's not going to have that sanctity. Okay.
So make it disappear.
Right. Well, if you make a stipulation, you can make a stipulation, right?
Yeah, right.
So, Asa Abai has a question. Par v'seir, so the cow and the goat on Yom Kippurim she'avdu. So you lost one of them, and what happened? You brought another one in its place. The hifresh achirim tachtehem. Turning the page. V'chein seire avodah zara. Also, if it's a funny case a little bit, but from Parsha Shlach we learned that if somehow a bezdin, the court, ruled erroneously about something that it was permitted, and turns out it was actually not allowed. It was actually avodah zara. So they have to bring also a special sacrifice. Now, what if that one got lost? She'avdu, the hifresh achareim tachteim. So all these cases, Yom Kippur, avodah zara, you lost the offering, and you now designated another one in its place to atone for whatever you have to atone for. So now you found them. You found the old one. So what do you do with it? So Kulan Yamusu, according to Rabbi Huda. Rabbi Huda, all the ones that were lost and that were found, they all die. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Omrim, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, they say, Yiru Achi Yistavu, let it go grazing until it gets a blemish, v'yimkaru, then it gets a blemish, then sell it, v'yiplu demeim l'nadava, and then take its money and you go purchase an offering with it, a voluntary offering with it. She'ein chatas tzibur mesa. There's a halacha Moshe Messina that certain sin offerings have to die. If they get lost and then they're found, they have to die. Halacha Moshe Messina. But according to Reb Shimon, that doesn't apply by the communal sin offerings. That's only going to apply by private sin offerings. So now, hold on. Why do you have to go do these? Why do you have to go redeem it and buy something with it? Just make a stipulation for all these sacrifices. Make a stipulation that I'm designating this sacrifice for Yom Kippur. In the event that it gets lost and then found, so then I'll be able to redeem it. Why do you have to? Why do you have to wait till it grazes and then gets a blemish? Right? Because this whole thing we learned really breaks the rules. The rule is usually if you have a blemish, you redeem it. But we introduced a concept where even without a blemish, if you have a stipulation, you could redeem it. And here we find that you have to wait for it to get a blemish. Why? Just make a stipulation. Says the Gemara, Avudim ka'amris, you're bringing me a question from lost offerings? Shiny avudim delo shchichi. No, lost offerings are so not common. You're not going to make a stipulation on things that are so not common. It getting lost is very uncommon. So for that, we're not going to make a stipulation. But things that are much more common, like every year you're going to have 4 leftover sheep when it comes Adar. So that, when it comes Nisan, so that's common. So for that, you'll make a stipulation. Okay. Now, on this assumption that things that are not common, you don't make a stipulation, we're going to ask on that. Hare para, the red heifer, the para, delo shchicha, that was very not common. Rashi says that throughout the entire first and second temple, they only brought 7 of them, paradumas. I thought they only had 7 of them, but I read it again. It sounds like they only brought 7 of them. They might have had more, but it's very. The point was that it's very uncommon to bring the paraduma. So hare para delo shchicha. It's very uncommon, and yet what do we say about it, Vitanya? So para niftes, a para you can redeem it. Al kol psul sheba. If it has any blemish, you can redeem it. Fine, that's fine. Mesa, if it dies, you could redeem it. Nishchata, if it's shechted, tifted, you could redeem it. Matza acheres na heimenu, you found another one more beautiful than it. So you have one paraduma, and all of a sudden you realize there's another one So what do you do? So tifta, you could also redeem it. So same question. It's already been designated. Where did kedusha go? It sounds like. Well, let's finish for a second. Shachta al gabi marachta. You actually shechted it on the altar. So ein la pedi. Okay, once you do that, now you can never redeem it. Ein la pedio lamis. So says the Gemara. Look over here. How did this work? You have a para. You found another one, or you already shechted it, and you could redeem it even without any stipulation. And even though they're so not common, since they're so not common, and yet somehow you're able to redeem it. How are you able to redeem it? It must be you made this stipulation. Yeah. Says the Gemara, no. Shiny para, this para is different. It's a lower level of sanctity. It's called the kache bedek habayisi. It's really was something which is not intrinsically holy. Rather, it was designated for the upkeep of the temple. That's interesting. Why is a para bedek habayis? I don't know.
Because it's used to make.
Oh, it's used to make the ashes.
To make the ashes, it's used.
Yeah.
In itself, it's not an avodah.
Yeah, very good. Right, it itself is not being brought up as a sin offering, as a voluntary offering. You're just slaughtering it, so you can take its ashes, mix it with the water, and that's going to purify people that touch a dead person. Yeah, very good, Steve. So what is that? So, yeah, good. So a para, it's really it's a lower level of sanctity. It's only kacha bedek habayis. Okay, so now, if that's true, so if that's true that it's only kache bedek habayis, well, how come when it dies or you shechted it, it says you can still redeem it? Ihachi mesa o nishkata tifta. Says the Gemara, hold on, not so fast. Ha ba'inan, you need before you redeem it. Ha'amada, you have to stand it up, evaluate it, and then you could redeem it. You can't just redeem it. So says the Gemara, Hamani Reb Shimon he. This is the opinion of Reb Shimon. The Amar kache mizbeach hayu bichlal ha'amada v'haracha kache bedek habayis lo hayu bichlal ha'amada v'haracha. Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion that this requirement for evaluation applies to things that are much more intrinsic holiness that you're going to bring onto the temple. Those things that you have to redeem them, you have to do a whole evaluation process. But things that are just donated for the upkeep of the temple, or in this case, for the to make the ashes, that you don't need to be evaluated. So that's the opinion of Reb Shimon. So we're saying now that this brisa is Reb Shimon. The problem is, Reb Shimon, Ein Seifa. If it's Reb Shimon, what do you do with the end of the brisa? The end of the brisa said, "Shachta al gabi ma'arachta." If you shechted it on the not on the mizbeach, on the pyre, the pyre, yeah, not on the mizbeach, right? Shachta al gabi ma'arachta. Once you shechted it on there, ein la pedio lamis, then you can no longer redeem it. However, that's going to be in conflict with another statement of Reb Shimon. The Hatanya Reb Shimon Omer, para metame tumas ochlin. Okay, so background is that anytime you have food that is asur behana, you can't get any pleasure from it. So the Gemara learned that it's not really considered food. It's not going to have the status of food, and therefore it's not going to be able to impurify other things. So it won't be able to impurify other things. So let's say, I don't know, who knows, a sheretz, or a dead body touches the food, the food touches the dead body. Mm-hmm. So it's not gonna only food is in the category of impurity. Things that you can't get any benefit from, called the suri hana, those are no longer in the category of, they're not called food. So because you can't feed it to anybody else. Food has to be fed to other people. And this is asur bahana, the food that is prohibited for consumption, doesn't have the status of food in regards to impurity. Fine. But Reb Shimon says that a para, this para duma, is able to metame tumas ochlin. It is still able to cause impurity to other foods. Why? Hovil v'haisala shasa kosher, because it had one point that it was fit. What is that? Amr Reish Lakish, Omer Hayir, Amr Reish Lakish, Omer Hayir Shimon, Para Niftes Al Gabe Ma'arachta. That a cow is able to be redeemed even after it was shechted on the pyre. It's still able to be redeemed. If you found a cow that was nicer than it, even after you shechted it on the pyre, you're still able to redeem it. And since you're able to be redeem it, it's considered like food because it's able to be redeemed and fed to somebody. The problem is though, this brisa says that once it's shechted on the pyre, once it's slaughtered on the pyre, it's no longer able to be redeemed. And Reish Lakish explained that according to Reb Shimon, even after it's slaughtered on the pyre, it still could be redeemed. So you wanted to make the beginning of this brisa Reb Shimon. The problem is the end of the brisa is in conflict with Reb Shimon, who holds even after it's slaughtered, it could still be redeemed, and therefore have have practical ramifications for impurity purposes. So says the Gemara, you're right. This whole question that we brought from Paraduma, backtrack, delete the whole thing. Really, it's very different. Ela shiny para hoyul b'tamah. We asked before things that are lost. It's so not common. You're not going to make a stipulation. So we said, well, Paraduma is so not common. Only 7 of them in the course of 900 years, 800 years, 150 years. So it's also very not common. Says, yeah, but it's super expensive. Since it's super expensive, that every time you're going to involve yourself with a paraduma, you will stipulate. Bezdin, even though it's very not common, but because it's so expensive, so you don't want to lose it. It's very expensive. So therefore, you're going to make a stipulation if it gets lost or needs to be redeemed. So therefore, it's going to lose its sanctity. So therefore, we really, the rule is you can make the stipulation. Animals that happen to get lost, on those animals, we don't make a stipulation. The things that are very expensive, then we would make a stipulation. So in the event that you would find a nicer cow, right? So you designate one cow, you set it aside, and then you now find a nicer cow. So since you don't want to get rid of these paradumas, you're originally going to make a stipulation in the event that I find a nicer cow. So then that's, I don't know if it's like necessarily, you have to say it explicitly or is it implicit? Not sure exactly, but yeah. So if you find a nicer one, then you could use that one, and this one will take a backseat. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Okay. So so just going back for one of the details that we just mentioned, we mentioned if it dies, it could be redeemed. Amar Mar Mesa. If it dies, you could redeem it. So what are you going to redeem a dead cow for? What are you going to do with it? Says the Gemara of all is good for us to feed to the cat, feed to the dogs. But you're going to take something holy and redeem it and just give it to the dogs. So that doesn't sound like that's a proper thing to do for something which is holy. So Amra Misharsha, what do you mean? Mishum Ora. It has its skins. So it's not totally useless. So you're not going to feed to the dogs and that's it. It has skins. Says the Gemara, "V'kaimi Bezdin of Moscow died to the Ora." So Bezdin's going to go and make a stipulation that in the event that it dies, you could redeem it just to save its hides. It's like a funny thing to stipulate about. Amar of Kahana, Amr Inchi, Megam Laona. I think it means even a camel, even a camel's ear is worth it. Meaning, yeah, the hides are worth it. They're valuable. They're worth something. So we will stipulate even for that. It's interesting why it chooses a camel out of all animals. A camel's ear. I don't know. Camel's ear is a delicacy in
if it's so
South
rare,
Africa. I don't know. No. Okay.
It's so rare, right?
Oh, if it's so rare, you just
the hide would be really
rare also.
Yeah.
Ostrich. Yeah, they would auction off this paraduma hide and then give the money to the base of English. Maybe it'd be expensive. Okay, so now back to questioning this idea of making stipulations. So our Mishnah said that there were two opinions. Both Rav Meir and Rav Shimon said that when you have these different offerings, Yom Kippur, 3 holidays, and Rosh Chodesh, that if you would lose one, so then the next holiday could atone for one of the averas that you did. No knowledge in the beginning, no knowledge at the end. according to Rav Meir, they all atone for each other. So of course you could bring one on a Rosh Chodesh offering. Can be you could atone. You could bring the Rosh Chodesh offering that gets lost. You could bring that one on one of the holidays, and the holiday one on Yom Kippur. But even according to Rav Shimon, who argued and said Rosh Chodesh is its thing, it's and the three holidays atone for its thing, and Yom Kippur atones for its thing, he still said, excuse me, he still said they asked him, can you bring one on a different day? Let's say one gets lost, so and then it's found. Can you bring it at a later day? And yeah, so let's say you lost the Rosh Chodesh offering, right? And now and then you lost it, and then you atone with a different Rosh Chodesh offering. Can you now bring that offering that was lost on the next holiday? So even though Reb Shimon says they atone for different things, but since they all have a general commonality, they all have something in common, they all atone for general impurities, so therefore you could do that. So on that, the Gemara is going to go through the whole thing now. So it says, Esvei, Amrulo Reb Shimon. So the Mishnah had an Amrulo. They said, we'll see who the they are. But they asked Reb Shimon, Mahu, according to you, Sheyikra, who says that Rosh Chodesh and the three holidays and Yom Kippur, the outer goat, are all atoning for different things. What happens if one's lost, then another one is used in its place, then it's found? Can you bring that on at the next possible opportunity? Mahu Sheyikra zeh bazeh. Amr lahu, he said to them, Yikravu. Amrulo, how could that be? They said to him, Hoil ve'ein kapras and shaman. Their atonement is very different. Heyach ein craven. To which he responded, Amr lahen, kulan bayin lechaper al tumas mikdash v'kadasha. He says, yeah, but they're all generally in the same family. They're all generally being atoned for things of impurity, of eating something impure, or walking to the temple impure. So says the Gemara, why do you have to make such a difficult? He had to get such a difficult answer, like such a hard answer to understand. They're all in the same family, so they're even though they're all different, but they can still atone for each other. They're not the same. Says the Gemara, "Amai lema leiv bezdin masna lahem." Just give a simple answer that we made a stipulation in the event that the Rosh Chodesh or the holidays or the Yom Kippur offering is lost. So then it's going to lose its sanctity. It's only going to remain with its sanctity in the event that it doesn't get lost. In the event it does get lost, it'll lose its sanctity. So you can make a stipulation. So why did Reb Shimon have to go and say such a difficult answer? He had a much simpler answer according to what we learned. There's a much simpler answer. Just make a stipulation. So, and that would save you all this trouble. Reb Shimon Ka'amris, what you're asking me a question on what I said about this stipulation from the opinion of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon doesn't hold of this whole idea of a stipulation. This whole stipulation is not like Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon, lest they left Bezdin Mas, this idea that the stipulation can work is not according to everybody. That was our assumption. But it's not true now. According to Reb Shimon, he doesn't agree that you can make a stipulation. So according to him, he was stuck. So he had to answer like this, a difficult answer, because he couldn't answer the stipulation answer. So now, where do we see that Reb Shimon doesn't hold of this? The Amr of Idi Bar Avin says of Idi Bar Avin, Amr of Amram, in the name of Amr, Amr of Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Timidin Shalo Hutzerchu Letzibur. You have a korban tamid, like our case, the sheep that were left over and now it's Nisan, and you can't bring them anymore from last year's money. You need this year's money. What do you do with them? So Timidim Shalo Hutzerchu Letzibur, you don't need them anymore, or not that are not needed anymore. So what do you do with them? So he says, L'divrei Rabbi Shimon, ein niftin timimim. You cannot redeem them until they have a blemish. Our whole Gemara 2-3 days ago started off with, yesterday, 2 days ago, that you could redeem even if it doesn't have a blemish. How could that possibly be? But according to Reb Shimon, you cannot redeem it if it's pure. It needs to have a blemish. However, l'divrei chachamim niftin timimim. But the opinion of the rabbis is that you could redeem it even when it's whole. How do you do that? Because you can make a stipulation. Okay, so no question from Reb Shimon. But now, once we brought in Reb Shimon, it's like a domino effect, right? Like a good Gemara. Once we brought in Reb Shimon, we now found that there's the opinion of the rabbis. They're the ones that hold, they're on the books as saying you could redeem it even though it's pure. How can you do that? Because you make a stipulation. Question is, where are these rabbis? Where do we find their opinion? It's the rabbis. So prove it to me. So v'Rabbanan the pligi aleha the Reb Shimon maninhu. Who are these rabbis? Where are they that they argue on Reb Shimon? So let's go one by one. Name Rabbanan the Ktores. We had an opinion of the rabbis by the Ktores that they said the Ktores, even though it's holy, but it can be redeemed. Well, that's very different. Shiny Ktores, delo bara'iyahi. That opinion that said that the Ktores, even though it has intrinsic holiness, it could still be redeemed. That's not a proof that when it comes to an animal, you could do the same thing. Because Ktores, there's no other solution. You can't let it graze until it gets a blemish, right? So, but maybe an animal that could graze and get a blemish, you have to go with that approach, the standard approach. Who says you can take that animal and stipulate originally that if it gets lost, we can redeem it? So we knock out that. It can't be that. Ela Rabbanan de para. Okay, we had an opinion of the rabbis by a red heifer. That we say, Dilma shiny para, the dameha yikarin. You can't bring a proof from there. It's super expensive. So maybe only by super expensive things do you make a stipulation. By a regular korban tamid, a regular daily communal offering that's left over, maybe you have to wait till it grazes and gets a blemish. Who says you can go and redeem it? So the Ela Rabbanan, quotation marks, de amrulo. So in our Mishnah, we said there is this opinion who asked on Reb Shimon, amrulo to Reb Shimon. So who's the amrulo? Who's the they said? So maybe the they said is the opinion of it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. And Rabbi Yehuda holds that even though the sacrifices atone for different things on Rosh Chodesh, the 3 holidays, and Yom Kippur, he holds you cannot, if one gets lost and then found, you cannot bring it on the next opportunity. So he didn't give that answer that Reb Shimon says, well, since they're all the same, therefore it's good. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda, who asked on Reb Shimon, how could you do that? They're all different. He was asking because he really held you can make a stipulation. But he wanted to know, according to you, Reb Shimon, how could you possibly bring one on another holiday? Because Reb Shimon held you can't make a stipulation. The one who asked on Reb Shimon, maybe he was the opinion that you could make a stipulation, and that would be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So to that, the Gemara says, "Mimai Rabbi Yehuda, who told you that it's Rabbi Yehuda who said the following? Hachi Kamarle, who said to Reb Shimon, Bishlama Lididi, it's good according to me. Da'amina Lev Bezin Masnaleim, that I hold they have different atonements, but I can make a stipulation. So Amtula Hachi Yikrabu, that's why I can lose one, the Rosh Chodesh offering, and bring it on another holiday, because according to me, I make a stipulation, and therefore if I lose it, it lost its sanctity, and therefore by the next holiday, it could regain its sanctity. So according to me, it's very good. But according to you, Reb Shimon, that said that you cannot make a stipulation, Amr is low, Amai Yikravu. So who says that was the back and forth? Reb Yehuda against Reb Shimon. Maybe Dilma Reb Meir he. Maybe it was Reb Meir asking. Now, Reb Meir holds that the 3 time periods, Rosh Chodesh, 3 holidays, and Yom Kippur, they all atone for the same thing. They can all atone for each other. So, according to Reb Meir, the reason why you can bring the lost Rosh Chodesh offering on the 3 holidays and the lost has a mind of its own. Okay, sorry about that. So Shem said refresh. Okay, so if it was Rav Meir, so maybe Rav Meir's asking on Rav Shimon. Now Rav Meir himself, you have no proof that he holds that you can make a stipulation. The reason he holds you can bring these offerings is because they all atone for the same thing. So maybe the Amru Lo in our Mishnah was Rav Meir, and therefore the conversation went as follows. Dilma Rav Meir he v'hachi kamar. This is what he was saying. Bishlama ledidi. It's good according to me. De amina kol seirim kaparas and shavan. According to me, all the goats all atone for the same things. Therefore, mishum hachi yikravu. Therefore, you can bring them all interchangeably. But Ela L'didach, according to you, Reb Shimon, that they do not atone for the same thing, Amai Yikravu. So how could you bring them? So basically, the Amru Lo in our Mishnah, that they who ask on Reb Shimon, so if it's Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that they atone for different things, the only way you can bring it is if you make a stipulation. And if that would be true, we found an opinion in a Mishnah that says you can make a stipulation, or else how else for Rabbi Yehuda can you bring the lost Rosh Chodesh offering on the 3 holidays? The problem is that Amru Lo in the Mishnah, that they who asked on Reb Shimon, could either be Rabbi Yehuda or it could be Rav Meir. And if it's the opinion of Rav Meir, you have no proof of a stipulation. It just, he holds they all atone for each other.
Good question. You said
Yeah.
something, if the animal is lost,
Yeah.
loses its sanctity.
So if you designate a Rosh Chodesh offering and then you lost it, so now Reb Shimon says you can bring it on Pesach. If you designate a Pesach offering, a Pesach goat that atones for impurities, and you lose it, you can bring it on Shavuos.
So it didn't really lose its sanctity.
So how do you bring it on a different time period? How do you do that? So one of 2 ways. If you stipulate originally, in the event that it gets lost, it's not going to retain its sanctity. So therefore, you lost it. Now that you lost it, your stipulation was it's only going to have holiness if it's going to make it through Rosh Chodesh. But if it wanders off and makes a wrong left turn, so then it's going to lose its sanctity. So if it lost its sanctity, so then of course you can bring it the next holiday because it's a regular cow. It doesn't have holiness at all. It's not a cow, a goat. It's a regular goat. So it basically comes out that there's 3 ways that if you lose a Rosh Chodesh offering, you can bring it on Pesach. So one way is, according to Reb Shimon, he says even though Rosh Chodesh offering and Pesach offering atone for different things, but they all atone for generally the same idea of impurity, eating, Beis Hamikdash. So that's Reb Shimon's answer. Since they atone for the same thing, atone for similar things, it could be brought, right?
But if it's lost,
Then you found it. Then you found it. You found it.
But it has its sanctity.
So according to Reb Shimon, it has its sanctity, and you could still bring it for another time period. Either they atone for different things. He has a novel opinion but they atone for a similar idea. That's going to be fine. So that's one. According to Rav Meir, anyways, the goats of all these time periods are all atoning for all the same things. So even though it retains its sanctity, you can for sure bring it on Pesach because it atones for the exact same thing. The goat on Rosh Chodesh atones for the exact same thing that the goat on Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, and the outer altar offering on Yom Kippur. They all atone for the exact same thing. According, no?
But if it lost its sanctity, how does it?
No. So that's the question. That's the question. That's the question. I lose a Rosh Chodesh offering, and I bring another one in its place, and then I found the lost offering.
Okay.
What do I do with it?
Okay, now,
Can I bring that offering, which has its sanctity, on Pesach?
But it lost its sanctity. How did
It didn't lose its sanctity.
Oh,
It didn't lose its sanctity. How did it lose its sanctity?
but when it got lost,
Why did it lose its sanctity?
it was lost and not found, and another animal was sanctified and used in this one.
But now it's found.
So it gets its sanctity back.
Yeah, it never lost its sanctity.
Okay, all right, that answers.
Yeah.
That answers.
Imagine you took a stamp, a tattoo, whatever it is, and you put on it holy, right? It made a left turn. You can't find it. It comes back. It still says holy on it, right? So according to Reb Shimon, you could bring it Pesach. According to Rav Meir, you could bring it Pesach. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he holds you cannot bring it Pesach. How could you do that? So the only answer for him is you must have made a stipulation that if it gets lost, it's going to lose its sanctity. And now when you found it, it comes back without the holy tattoo on it. That's yeah. Yeah, good clarification. Wow, that's a lot of O's already. They increased Sundays 1 Oy, Mondays 2 Oy, Tuesday was 3 O's already. So when you say Yom Shlishi, yeah. So that's I know what day it is, depending on Jules' O's. So the 3rd day of the week, 3 O's. So Yeah. Okay. So how do we? Where is this opinion that of the rabbis that says that a stipulation works? Ella Rabbi Yochanan Gemara Gamirla. Rabbi Yochanan taught us there's actually a tradition. It's a tradition that what L'divrei Reb Shimon ein niftin, L'divrei Chamim niftin. There's a tradition that according to Reb Shimon, he holds it cannot be redeemed, and according to the Chamim, it could be redeemed. So basically, we have according to Rabbi Yochanan, we have a tradition that that he learned from his rabbi, he learned from their rabbis, that these are the two opinions on the books. Yeah, it's funny. Often Gemara Gamirla is referring to Halacha Moshe Sinai. But in this case, you wouldn't chance it like that. Halacha Moshe Sinai, that we had an argument of two opinions. They came after Moshe Sinai. Yeah. So okay. So yeah. What did you say? Why not? Right. How much history I know that Rav Shimon came after our Sinai. So yeah. So yeah. Rav Shimon is Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon Bar Yochai. It says Rav Shimon. It's referring to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. He's a student of Rabbi Akiva, Lag Bomer. Yeah. So. Oh, good. So yeah. So. Oh, yeah. Okay. Reb Shimon the Lesle Lev Bezdin Masne Aleim. So my Avdin Lahu. So 1 second. According to Reb Shimon, so this communal offering that is left over. So what do you do with it? So you have a communal offering. You have 4 leftovers every year. So according to us, the non-Reb Shimon group, you make a stipulation and you can use it for whatever you want. According to Reb Shimon, you can't make a stipulation. So what do you do with it? You have 4 leftover sheep every year by Nisan. So what do you do with them? My oven, Reb Yochanan, mekitzin behen esam mizbeach. Okay, so we'll see what that means literally on the top of the next amud, but it's referring to, the idea is a very interesting thing, that it's not honorary for the temple to be quiet from sacrifices. It's an honor when you have sacrifices there. So you have special offerings like these that you're gonna bring them to make sure. Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of
Or you say we have a barbecue on Lag Bomer.
right, or Lag Bomer. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I think Rashi says that. Yeah, no. During Corona, so this Jewish thing came out, Naki Radio. It's like a Jewish radio station. Basically, you have 1 million stories, and it's great for kids. So during Corona, so it requires Wi-Fi, and you have a whole portal, just stories and songs, and from Hasidic songs to stories, to everything under the sun, Jewish related. That's all it has on the station. Yeah. So you can't go make a wrong turn. So Hasidic not a wrong turn. Yeah. So one of the stations it was called Sound of the Beis Medrash. Everyone was stuck at home in isolation, so you would turn it on, and it'd be the background noise of Beis Medrash in case it was too quiet for you at home. You put that on to yeah. In our house, it's not usually so quiet, but for other people, yeah, it was very funny. Sound of the Beis Medrash to give you like the feeling that you're there. So yeah, okay. So Amar Shmuel Bar Yitzchak Umoder Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon agrees. B'seirei chatas. Okay, so now, once again, it was like a good domino. We're building step after step. Reb Shimon holds you can't make a stipulation. So what does he hold? You can bring it as an offering to keep the Beis Hamikdash busy, so to speak. It's called like a dessert of the Beis Hamikdash. You keep it. Okay. So now, Amar Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Reb Shimon doesn't always say that. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Umoder Reb Shimon b'seirei chatas. If you have a sin offering that gets lost and then found, so you cannot bring that itself up to the temple as a ola offering, as one of these offerings that you bring up to make sure there's always offerings in the Beis Hamikdash. She'ein mekitzin begufan ela b'demehen. You would have to, I guess, wait till it gets a blemish, and then redeem it, and then use that money to then buy an offering. And then you would use that money to buy an offering and use that on the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, exactly. You have to wait till it gets a blemish. Yeah. According to Reb Shimon, if it's a chatas offering, you have to wait till it gets a blemish, then redeem it, then take that money and buy a ola offering, and then bring that offering onto the Beis Hamikdash during a quiet hour. So. Yeah. So why? So the reason is hachahu demi kara ola v'hashta ola. So when you have an ola offering, when you have an ola offering, it was originally an ola offering, and now you can't bring it anymore, and now it also has a status of an ola offering. So that's fine. So there you can take the same cow or the same animal that was an ola offering that's now left over and bring it as an ola offering. So that's fine. But aval hasam demi kara chatas, if you have a chatas offering that's left over that you can't use anymore, now when you want to bring it up to the temple just to be consumed, so there's things happening in the temple, that is called an ola offering. Since it was originally a chatas offering, now it's an ola offering that you can't do. So why not? To mikara chatas v'hashta ola. Why? Gzeira la'achar kapara atu lifnei kapara. So let's say you have a sin offering designated, and now it is lost, right? And now you found it. So now you found it. So you're not allowed to bring that offering, the one that was lost and now found, as an ola until you get atonement for what you need atonement for. So you designated a chatas offering as a chatas offering because you have to get atonement. Now it gets lost. So you designated another chatas offering to atone for your sin. Then you found the first one. So now you want to say, okay, let's just use it as an ola on the temple to keep it noisy. He says, yeah, but you can't bring that before you brought your sin offering. So therefore we said, even after you brought your sin offering and you found that offering, you still can't use that because we're worried if we allow you to use it even after your sin offering was brought, you might confuse and bring it even before your sin offering was brought. And that you can't do. So, another oi. So, I know that when I had a lot of my ois in the afternoons in the mirror. So one of the rebbeim there I was close to. So he always told me, you see, just read it a few times and all the ois will go away, basically. That's always, and he was right. So yeah. The first time through it's oi, but the second time it's like a half an oi, then it's a little less. Yeah. So, okay. So Amar Abaye, so now we're going to bring you 3 or 4 proofs that according to Reb Shimon, we make this kind of decree. So Amar Abaye, of Ananami Tanina, we also taught this in a brisa. Par v'seir sheYom Kippurim, a par and a seir of Yom Kippurim she'avdu, v'hifresh acherim tachtehem, that you lost. You lost the the cow or the goat of Yom Kippur, and you lost it. You found it. You designated another one in its place, and then you found it. Or similarly, v'chein seir avodah zara. If erroneously the Bezdin issued a decree, allowed you to do some kind of act, which they ended up making a mistake because really it was an act of avodah zara. She'avdu v'hifresh acharayim tachteim, and also you designated an offering to bring, then you lost it, and then you had another one in its place, and then you found it. So kulan yamusu divrei Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they all have to die. I think it's a halacha Moshe Missinai that there's 5 chatas offerings that even if they're found, they have to die. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Lazar, Reb Shimon Omrim, no. Yiru achi yistovu, let it go graze until, so the lost offering that was found, let it graze until it gets a blemish, v'yimkaru, then sell it, v'yiplu dinei and l'nedava, and use the money to go buy this voluntary offering. Why? She'ein chatas tzibur mesa. According to Reb Shimon, we don't say that this chatas tzibur mesa, that a chatas tzibur has to die. That rule that a chatas has to die applies to a personal sin offering, not to a communal sin offering. So says the Gemara, hold on, why are you redeeming it? Just bring it itself onto the temple at a time that it's quiet. V'amai nikru inu gufayu ola. Just bring it as an ola. What's the reason? Must be it was originally a chatas, and now it's an ola. Ela lav shmamina. You see from here, gzeira, that they made a decree. La'achar kapara atu lifnei kapara. They made a decree that an animal that was a chatas, that was lost and then found, that even though technically you could bring it right now onto the temple, but you can only bring it after the other animal that was its backup was brought. And we're worried if we allow you to bring the lost and found offering even after you got your atonement, you might bring it before you got your atonement, and that's not going to be okay. So that's what you see from here, that according to Reb Shimon, you have to redeem it. redeem it and use the money to buy one. So it's just a proof. So this is like a not too much of an oy. It's just a proof. Yeah. So Amar Rav. Also, Rav says another proof. Afanami tanina. The hasheni. Okay, so this is you. Okay, this is you. So you have the 2 goats for Yom Kippur, right? And then you lost one of them, right? So you bring another pair. So now you're gonna have an extra. You have 3 goats over here, right? One goes, it's brought, and one gets thrown off the cliff. So the 3rd goat is extra. So what do you do with it? So the extra one is you let it blemish, you let it graze until it gets a blemish, sell it, take the money, buy a nidav with a voluntary offering, and then go bring it up at a time where it's quiet in the base of Mikdash. Says the Gemara, why do you do that? Why do you have to wait till it gets a blemish? It itself can be brought as an ola offering. No, you see from here, must be that we're worried if we allow you to bring it at that time, you might come to bring it before you got your atonement, before its backup offering was brought, and that's not allowed. So because of this decree, you have to go and let it graze, get a blemish, redeem it, use the money, buy a korban, and that's how it works. Maravina, one more. Af ananami tanina, asham shemesu bailav. So now you have a korban asham where the owners died. Oh, sheniskaper bailav, or they already got atonement. So it was lost, got atoned for by another korban, then it was found. What do you do with it? Yira achi yistoyev. You let it go graze until it gets a blemish. You take the money and you go buy an offering with it. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Yomos, he holds it has to die. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Yavi B'dam of Ola V'li Karev. Take its money and go buy an Ola and bring it up to the Beis HaMikdash. So says the Gemara, take its money and buy an Ola. Hagufa Ola. It itself is already an Ola. Elalav Gzeira Lacha Kapara Atu Lifnei Kapara Shmamina. That we're worried. You have to do this whole thing because we're worried you might bring it before its backup offering was brought in its place, and therefore you have to let it go graze and then get a blemish and then redeem it and then use the money to go buy something. Okay, we'll stop here.